All right. Welcome to the Bill Cartwright Show featuring Steve Cohen. Our special guest today, Mr. Horace Grant, 3-time NBA champ and 4-time all defensive team. I'll tell you what, I knew you were impressive, but I didn't know you were that impressive.
Bill, it's great and it's an honor, man, for me to be on your podcast. It's unbelievable. But let me correct you. It's 4-time NBA champion.
It's 4-time NBA champ. I missed it.
Yeah, you missed that one.
Wow.
The 3 with the Bulls, of course. The 1 with the Lakers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should have known that. Even more impressive. Now, Horace, what I want to do is take it back a little bit. You grew up in Georgia, with the high school in Georgia. What was that like growing up down there? And what was the basketball climate like?
Well, growing up in a little small town, probably population 2,500, a couple of red lights, a very small town. And it's kind of in central part of Georgia. Basketball and football was things we gravitated to keep us out of trouble. Because, little small towns can get you captured and going the wrong direction.
Because that's pretty impressive that you go from a small town, you end up at, you go to a pretty big school. So you must have had some pretty good coaching.
Well, I give a lot of credit growing up in a small town to their entire community in terms of keeping me the right track, so to speak. A man by the name of Arthur Daniels was my junior high coach and my high school coach.
Wow.
He kept me on the straight and narrow, man.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Now you have a twin brother, so you got a partner to work out with, pretty much whether you want it or not, 24/7.
Absolutely, that was one of the benefits of being an identical twin, that you just wanted to compete with each other. Even from 5 years old. He wanted to beat me and I wanted to beat him in everything. So, that helped us with our development as basketball players and as human beings.
So you went to Clemson. So tell me how that happened. What was the process, and what other choices did you have?
Clemson was some of the best 4 years of my life. But how it came to happen that my brother and I went to Clemson was that, being from a small town, you didn't get recruited that much from big schools. The big colleges came to see other guys play from other teams that played us. So my brother and I happened to, be some decent basketball players. So therefore, when Clemson came to see other teams, we stood out, and they offered us a full 4-year scholarship.
You guys had some pretty good teams at Clemson, because that's a pretty tough conference as well. So, what was your experience like? And who was the coach down there?
Well, my first year, it was the late great Bill Foster.
Wow.
He left Clemson after my freshman year. He went to, I think, Virginia Tech. And the last 3 years was Cliff Ellis. He came from South Alabama. And then after he left Clemson, he went to Auburn. And he's Hilton Head, South Carolina. I forgot the university down there in Hilton Head. It was a small Division one school. So Cliff Ellis played a big part of my development going into the pros.
So who was your main competition at Clemson? Did you guys have a rival?
Listen, when it comes to basketball, we were not at the top until my probably my senior year. You have the Dukes, North Carolina State, Georgia Tech. You can go on and on in the ACC Atlantic Coast Conference because they have some powerhouses. I remember, the late great Lynn Byers at Maryland. My freshman year, Michael Jordan was at North Carolina. Yeah. Kenny Smith. I mean, you can go on and on.
So as you left Clemson, did you feel like you were going to be a high NBA draft pick? What were you being told at that time?
Well, I was told from 5 to 10 that through my agent, and my philosophy, I just wanted to hear my name called being drafted, and I let them worry about the position they think that I was going in. I remember that year it was David Robinson. Of course, he was going to be number one, regardless. And we had Kenny Smith, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Hopson in that draft, Kevin Johnson. So
yeah, you had a great class.
Yeah, it was a loaded class. So from 5 to 10 to answer.
So when you got drafted by the Bulls, what were you thinking?
Man, I mean, coming from a small town in Georgia and going to Clemson University, meaning that the university makes the town, and going into a big city like Chicago, I mean, your eyes are open, and I have never felt so much cold weather in my life getting off that plane. I got off that plane right after the press conference. I went and bought me a big coat to keep warm in that winter. But I was just anxious to meet my new teammates.
So tell me about your first year. What was that like? What did you learn in your first year of being there? Because Charles Oakley was there, Michael Jordan was there. You guys had some established guys that were there. How was your first year in Chicago?
Entertaining, I would say that, because I I didn't come to an agreement with the Bulls through my agent until like a couple of weeks into training camp. You had veterans like Michael, you had Charles Oakley, you had Artis Gilmore was on that team. So me being me, I gravitated to Artis Gilmore. So I became his rookie. And I remember after every practice, those tour days, I would take him to lunch, and I would take him to dinner. And of course, I had to pay for it. And he taught me a lot about how to be a professional from that standpoint.
So that very next year, Charles Oakley gets traded to New York Knicks. Actually, he got traded for this guy, Bill Cartwright. And then now you come off and you're a starter. Did you feel like there was a lot of pressure to play?
Well, when Doug Collins called me into his office, Doug Collins, and said they traded Charles Oakley, I thought it was a joke, because our rookie year, I only played like 10, 12 minutes a game. And I'm thinking, man, so I felt a little pressure. The relationship that Oak and MJ had, I felt a little pressure because, the Bulls just traded away an enforcer, a guy who, will hard foul you in a heartbeat. And, but, I welcomed the challenge. But then I realized that we were getting Bill Cartwright. So therefore, I didn't have to do too much of a dirty work. I let Bill Cartwright do that.
When you were only getting 10 to 12 minutes a game, were you feeling like, hey, I deserve more time and good riddance, Charles?
I felt that the 10 to 12 minutes, I knew I had more to give if I got the opportunity. But Charles Oakley was one of my mentors also that first year. You know, he taught me how to hold, scratch, and not get caught many times. So I give him a whole bunch of credit also.
This is probably an ignorant question, but like there's a dynamic as a teammate where you have to be supportive of other teammates, but you have to advocate for yourself, right? Isn't that always a challenge? You know, in order to be a team player, but also to say, hey, as an individual, I would like to get more playing time. I'd like to get more shots. I'd like to get more whatever. You know?
Well, I approach it like this, Steve, in terms of it was all about competition. I mean, a lot of fights broke out in practice, but it was nothing personal. It was just the art of competition, and that's why I give Oak a lot of credit because, man, some of the practices we had going up against each other, man, you know, I felt I was like going against the New York Knicks or the Detroit Pistons through practice. So it was just all about competition. It was nothing personal.
Hey, Horace, can you talk a little bit about a guy that really helped me a lot? And I know a guy that spent a lot of time with you was Al Vermeil.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about Al Vermeil?
Man, when I first met Al, at the year somebody traded Oak, I had to get stronger as a power forward in the East. So he brought me into his office and we sat down, we talked for an hour. And believe me, I thought the dude was out of his mind. He was way beyond his time, eccentric. I mean, I thought he was just crazy. I mean, he had me do things during the summer to put weight on me and to get me stronger. And some of the things he had me pushing his little truck. He had like a little truck called a Pinto, a Ford Pinto truck. I had to push this thing. He put this harness on my back and he got on the back of a sled. I mean, all kinds of things like that. But man, let me give Al Vermeil kudos, man. You know, he really, really was a essential part of my growth in him.
Yeah, because I tell you what, every time I was in the weight room, you get now one thing to your credit is that you work, man. Because seemingly right after practice, you were in the weight room. You were in the weight room, you were lifting. How Al had you upside down, backside up, running. I mean, it was really amazing all the different drills he had for you.
Well, it just enhanced my ability on the floor as a power forward, and playing defense. He knew the things that needed to be done with me to excel my ability out there against my opponents.
And another guy who loved you and would talk about you pretty much every day is your guy, Johnny Bach.
Man, Billy C. Johnny Bach was definitely a father figure. He didn't sugarcoat anything, and that's one of the reasons why I respected him as a person. It was no sugarcoating. I remember when I was married, my first wife, I called and I said, well, she's, I have to take her I had to go with her to the hospital. And I quote Johnny Bach. Johnny Bach said, put her in a cab and get your ass to practice. so I said, Coach, he was like, so I had to kind of tell her, look, I can't miss practice. So I think her mother came up and escorted her to something like that. But those are the situation that I respected about him. I mean, if I messed up in practice, man, he would come over and he would whisper something like in my ear. It's called FUBAR. I can't say it on camera what it means, but
you can say it.
Oh, you can say that on camera?
Yeah, you can say anything you want.
Oh, it's called Horace, you are clusterfuck. And I'm like, what did I do? He said, you missed that assignment. And I'm like, coach. He was like, you know what you are? You're a foobar. I'm like, what's a foobar? Fucked up beyond all recognition. and, sometimes I wanted to really laugh, but I couldn't let him know that he got to me. I'm like, okay, coach, okay. But that's the kind of relationship we had, man. And believe me, man, he was one of the greatest defensive minds NBA have ever known.
Well, I guess we should say is that Johnny Bach was connected to you. You're a twin, and he was a twin. So you
Yes.
guys did have a special relationship. And let's talk about that first championship when we played against the Lakers. What were you thinking about going into that first series after we got past the dreaded Detroit Pistons?
Going into after we got past the Pistons, I think we all had to exhale because it was getting past them. They're kicking out butts for 2 or 3 years in a row, and then getting past them was a great feat in itself. But then after you celebrate a little bit, then you look on the other side. It's your first time in the finals as an organization, as a team. Then you look over and you see Magic Johnson, Sam Perkins, James Worthy, and so forth. You're like, they've been there numerous of times, and you don't know what to expect. But we knew what type of team we were that year. We had matured. We got through the Pistons, and I can just say, the first night before that, the first game, I didn't get any sleep because I'm thinking, yeah, we're in the finals. We're in the finals.
Yeah, because you played extraordinarily well in the finals, and especially after we actually lost the first game in Chicago, and we were going back to LA, tied 1-1 with 3 games in LA. So what were you thinking?
My thought process during that, we could have easily been up 2-0. MJ missed that. If you remember, MJ, when he shot the last shot, it went in and just bounced out. So me personally, I'm like, okay, we could have been 2-0. But going back to the Great Western Forum,
Yeah.
man, not many people have won on that floor, especially in the finals. But like I said, how we matured as a team that year, how we trusted each other, and MJ being in the finals for the first time, man, I felt pretty good, personally. I felt pretty good.
So we were able to overcome the Lakers. And actually come back the champs and have a formidable opponent with the Portland Trailblazers. In our second year coming back, did you feel like you were ready to establish yourself as being a star in our league?
I felt with the experience that I got personally, being in that first finals, I kind of knew what to expect, making it back to the finals for a second time in a row. I still knew I had a lot of work to do, to accomplish, to be, one of the, I don't want to say elite, but one of the known power forwards in the NBA during that year. I remember taking probably a week and a half to 2 weeks off, and then getting to know Al Vermeil again in the weight room. So, those were my off season. Me and Al, we were married during the off season.
Pushing a truck up a hill, like what does that do for you? Sorry, Bill.
It was more of getting my lower body and my core area stronger. because if you look back, had the skinniest legs ever. But Al said, long as they're strong, don't worry about the size. And that was one of the things that he put into my regimen of working out. Me really getting a good base of pushing that vehicle.
You know, we should mention that a guy you hung around with a lot and spent a lot of time with on and off the floor was this guy, Scottie Pippen. What was your relationship like?
You know, we both got drafted by the Bulls on same year, the same night. Well, Scottie got drafted by Seattle, and then they traded the pick to the Bulls. I never known that guy until that night in the hotel. And believe me, we needed each other our rookie year. You know, being two guys just being drafted.
Both from small towns.
Small towns. We just gravitated to each other, man. We gravitated to each other, and we needed each other. I remember after our rookie year, I mean, it was pretty tough. I don't know if he called me, I called him, and Scott was like, yo, G, let's go out, man. Let's go out and talk. I said, okay. So he comes to pick me up. We go and buy 2 cases of beer. And we go out to this forest preserve and just drink beer and just talk about the whole season. How, I mean, the pros and cons, and believe me, man, that was real. That was real. And so that's how we really became friends. I mean, we could tell each other everything. We always did 98% of the things together. And we still talk almost every week.
So talk a little bit about that next year, because we did have a really good year, and we ended up in the championship series again, and this time it was Portland. Why was that series different than the Lakers?
With the Lakers, we didn't know what to expect in terms of, you know, being there in the finals the first time. And, you know, a couple of the Lakers, I think, got injured. So that was that. But against Portland was just as athletic as we were. With Clyde Drexler, they had a good point guard, Terry Porter, and you going up against the late great big Kevin Duckworth.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he was a big boy. And then you got Buck Williams, Cliff Robinson, late great Cliff Robinson. I mean, they had a squad, man, and they had a good bench too. You know, it was a battle from game one. I have to give credit to our bench. Bobby Hansen, Scott Williams, Stacey King for coming in, because, man, we were down. I remember game 3 or 4, we were down, and they came. Portland was kicking out, but I think Phil took everybody out except maybe Pip, and then the guys, the bench took over and brought us back and won the championship.
Yeah, that was actually the 6th game.
Yeah.
When we were down, we were at home. We were down, and the bench brought us all the way back. And I think Bobby Hansen made 2 threes in that game. They had to be thinking, "Wow, what is going on?" You're right. Our bench was amazing, and it brought us all the way back in that game and allowed us to win our 2nd championship.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, Billy, see, that's what intense practices are all about, that competition. I mean, even the second team in practice, man, you know, they never back down. I mean, unless you gave Will an elbow or something, and then they would have to take you out of practice. Phil would take you out of practice so you won't hurt anybody else.
Actually, our second team was great, especially if the first group of starters had a bunch of minutes. that second team would come in and they would talk some smack, wouldn't they? They tried to kill us.
Man, listen, man. If they would talk crazy shit about, I mean, they would come on. Oh man, y'all getting old, man. Kill him, kill him. I mean, and that's the competition, man, that drove us as a team, man. I loved it, and I missed that competition.
Yeah, we did have a great bench with BJ, and we had great shooters, you know, with guys like Craig Hodges and coming off the bench, and Cliff Livingston playing, and Stacy, Scott Williams. We had great bench, so we're really very fortunate with that.
You know, but see, a lot of people don't realize or forgot how great of a shooter Craig Hodges was, and BJ Armstrong. I mean, if they're open, they're going to make the shot. I mean, we forget and the energy that Cliff Livingston, we call him Good News, brought off that bench, man, it was just contagious.
So we overcome the Portland Trailblazers, and the next year we once again have a great year. And I thought we did a great job of keeping ourselves healthy for the most part. And we're back in the championship again, this time against a really different team, the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
And actually, you had you had a big challenge in that series because you had to guard Barkley.
You know, when you guard a guy like Charles Barkley, back then they didn't have the 5-second rules that bag down. You know, he could bag me down all night, man. I mean, and it wouldn't be a violation. But that was one of my toughest opponents I ever faced because you knew he was going to get the ball 85% of the time. And you know, that's where all of that work with Al Vermeil came into play. Because, I mean, he had one of the biggest asses I have ever seen in my life. I mean, he was a round mouth, but he was one of the most athletic, strong, quick, power forward I have ever played against.
He was a great player in that series, and that was a tough series. They actually beat us at home in a game that I felt like we had. We ended up turning the ball over, and Kevin Johnson ended up getting a steal, and we ended up back in Phoenix for what would be our biggest challenge of the year. And everybody remembers that game because of the John Paxson 3 that ended up being the closer. But the guy who made that play was Mr. Horace Grant. Why don't you take him through that play?
I remember, I think everybody in the world knew that MJ was going to get the ball. I remember BJ passing it into MJ. And I remember Kevin Johnson was guarding it, and somebody, I think it was Dan Marley, coming over and double teaming MJ to get the ball out of his hand. He took one dribble and threw it to Pip, threw it to Scotty. I remember Scotty take one or two dribbles, and I was down beneath the goal because someone came off of me. Scotty passed it to me, and I saw Danny Ainge out of my peripheral vision and the big ass goggles I had. I saw him coming. He was coming to tackle me. So I just instinctively, I turned around and Pax was wide open. Pax was wide open. And when you give a good shooter like John Paxson wide open shot, 95% of the time, he's going to make it. It's happened. Very fortunate it was a 3 for us.
Yeah, that was a 3 for us and actually put us in the lead. And I remember that play well because as he shot that shot, the entire air went out of the building. Everybody was going, "Oh no!"
I remember some highlight film. I think it was Frank Johnson. I think he was on that team in Phoenix, and he was like, and Dan Marley was like this, and Danny Ainge had that crying baby look on his face, like,
Maybe
It was a good time for the Bulls.
So, but what you forget is that there was one more play left in that game where Phoenix did have the ball. Phoenix got the ball back, and Kevin Johnson had a shot to win that game, and something happened.
Big Oliver Miller. You remember Big Oliver Miller, the
Everybody.
center? Yeah.
Everybody.
He said a pick on MJ and buried MJ. And I was on him. Kevin Johnson come around that pick. And Kevin Johnson being Kevin Johnson, he's quick, fast, and I'm backing up. I'm off balance. And thank God that I'm 6'10" and he's 6'1". He goes up at the free throw. It was a free throw. And I was just happening to be at the right place at the right time and block that shot, man. Wow.
Yeah, that was a great play. That's why when people always say that, they talk about that series. I said, the reason we won that series, and the guys that made the two big plays at the end of the game, it's Mr. Horace Grant.
I appreciate the love, man. I was having a bad night that night. I think I scored 1 point. I had to do something. Something had to be right. Had to be right.
You know, what I always appreciated is after we would fly home, we would have a pretty large reception, if you remember, at the airport.
It was just unreal, unbelievable how the support we had throughout the world, and especially in the city of Chicago. Fans would be there at the airport, hotel. I mean, you name it, man. They would follow us in their vehicles to wherever we went. I mean, it was a beautiful thing, man. It was a beautiful thing.
Now, there's one thing I wanted to ask you guys, is that because at that point in time, people had their own security guards, which kind of confused me because we're all pretty big. What'd you think about all the security that we had? Because we had a ton.
Yeah, I mean, when you're traveling with Michael Jordan, you're going to have some type of security because you want his mind, his body fresh, because obvious, you know, we need him to win. We needed him to win. You know, guys like, you know, me and Pip, man, we didn't care about security, man. We were free spirits, man. We were free spirits. I mean, you know, back then, and we couldn't wait to get to a place like South Beach, New York, you know, and sightsee.
Now, let me ask you real quick. Now, you used to wear those goggles. How did that happen? Why did you start wearing them?
Well, man, I remember my man Johnny Bach. You know, Phil used to give us books to read. So I'm reading this book, and I had the book close like this. He walks up to me and he was like, "When we get back next morning, go and get your eyes checked." Like, okay, coach. So I go in, get my eyes checked. This was my second year. And I'm legally blind. And I asked myself, how in the hell did I pass a physical being legally blind? So therefore, they asked me, did I want contacts? And I said, no, because I have a phobia about putting my fingers towards my eye. They said, well, you're going to need glasses. I said, oh, okay, glasses. They said, well, what about the court? I'm like, okay, goggles. So Todd and I had like our places were right next to each other in the locker room. And I took my goggles out and he said, are you wearing those? I said, yeah, I'm putting those on. I'm going out here because I need to see. He was like, I dare your ass to put those on. And he dared me and I put them on. And that night, Billy C, the goggles were born. That night on a dare.
Yeah. I tell you what, and not a lot of people can pull that off, but the goggles actually look pretty good.
Yeah. I made them famous.
So after that, um, you actually leave Chicago
Hmm.
and you end up with on another really good team.
Yeah.
Shaq, Penny Hardaway. So
Nick
what
Anderson.
Nick Anderson. So what were you thinking? Now you're headed to Orlando.
Well, it was. I mean, it was a total business decision. Um, and then I could have went other places for a lot more money, but I saw the opportunity with him. They had just retired, but we had a good year that year of his retirement. I think we went 55, won 55 games, and went to the playoffs. And but going to Orlando, I saw a great opportunity with the young Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, and Dennis Scott, 3D. Um, man, it was an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up.
Now who was coaching that team?
The coach was Brian Hill.
Yeah.
Brian Hill was a mastermind when it came to uh, motivating the team, pushing the team, and having a no nonsense attitude. So I felt pretty good down
Yeah, you guys played really well there. Now Shaq was pretty. He was young there, wasn't he?
there. Yeah, young, athletic, man could run the floor like a small forward, and I mean he was just another beast, man.
So what did you feel like your role was on that team? Because you just won 3 championships.
My role was to teach them um, um, how to approach that season or games in general, to lend my experience for helping win 3 championships in Chicago. But and I stress this to Shaq and Penny. You guys are our leaders. I'm just a piece in this puzzle. We're going to go as far as you guys take us. And that first year, we won 60 games.
Now, what was the difference between being in Orlando and being in Chicago?
Well, in Chicago, um, you know, we had some great expectation, great expectations. Um, you know, being in Chicago, making it to the finals. We had a veteran team, and in Orlando, no one expected us to make it to the final. My first year there, we had a good shot of making the playoffs and making some noise in the playoffs, but no one expected us to be in the finals. But I knew what type of team we had there. I knew the quality of players, um, great coaching staff, and that city, Orlando, was just hungry for winner.
So, how long were you in Orlando?
2 stints in Orlando. I was there from December 94, 95 to 99. Then I got traded to Seattle for 1 year, and then from there to the Lakers.
So, how was your experience in Seattle? As a matter of fact, I spent a year in Seattle. Talk about that.
Well, Seattle is a great city, great fans, but I mean, I experienced cold in Chicago. It was just something about the draft, the icy roads in Seattle, and just the overcast every day, man.
Oh, it's gonna rain.
Lots of rain. I'm like, damn. I mean, you can't go outside. Listen, man. I played with Gary Payton, Vin Baker, Vernon Maxwell. We had a pretty good team up there, but Seattle, not one of my favorite cities. I just put it in.
Now, who was your coach then?
Um, Paul Westphal was.
Oh, Westfall.
Yeah, Paul Westphal, great guy, man. Great guy. I mean, he was very professional. He knew his X's and O's, and I think Nate McMillan was one of the assistant coaches up there.
Paul Westphal was one of my teammates, and awesome guy.
Oh,
Just
wow.
awesome guy. I never had the pleasure of playing for him, but I wish I would have. So as you lead Seattle, let's talk about this time that you spent with the Lakers, because that had to be a little different for you.
Man, I remember I made my home off-season home in Orlando. So when went back home after the season in Seattle, I'm sitting at a bar, enjoying myself, and my agent calls me. He was like, "Horace, do you want to play for the Lakers?" I'm like, "Are you shitting me?" And he was like, "No, I can make it happen." I said, "Make it happen." He hangs up, and then about an hour later, he calls me. He was like, "You're getting traded to the Lakers." I bought everybody in that bar a couple round of drinks. And, going back to be reunited with Shaq, who I played with in Orlando, and then Phil, who obviously was our coach in Chicago, and then upcoming Kobe Bryant. Man, it was a great fit for me, especially in the twilight of my career.
Let's talk a little bit about your relationship, because Phil loved you. Let's talk about Phil a little bit. What did you really learn from him, and how did he enhance your game?
He knew how to relate to each and every one of us in our own way, our own language, if you will. I remember when he was assistant coach, Doug Collins was the head coach. And if you know anything about Doug, he's kind of fiery guy, and especially as a coach, and even when he was a player. So he just started, wailing on me in practice. So I sit down and I'm like, I'm pissed. I'm like, damn, why is he yelling at me all the time? I mean, damn. So Phil comes over and explains it to me in my language in terms of, Horace, I think Doug wanted you to do it this way. Why not try it this way? It was that language, man. And I'm like, okay, go out and just do the right thing in practice. And that's kind of relationship Phil and I had and have to this very day, man.
Yeah, that was a really special time. So what was your role on that team?
My role on the Lakers
Yes.
was to be myself, be that same player that I plug in the holes, play defense, hit the 17-foot jumper when I got the opportunity, and block shots, as I did my whole career. That's what they needed me for, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why Phil basically brought me there, just to be me.
Were there times when your teammates on the Lakers were saying, "Hey, why is he doing this? Why is Coach Jackson doing this or that?" And you had to kind of translate things for him, or did they buy into him right away?
Well, they Steve, they had won a championship previous before I got there. I think they've already bought in. But some of the wacky things that he had them do, like Tai Chi and a lot of the incense, things of that nature, uh, I had to explain it to him in a different language because a lot of the guys came to me, what the hell is he doing? I mean, even with the Tai Chi, I mean, if you do it right, it can help you. But you got a whole bunch of black guys who didn't grow up on Tai Chi. And they were like, what the hell is going on? So it worked out.
Horace, can you talk a little bit about now, this was a rumor, so don't go by me, but seemingly, uh, when you and your brother played the same night, um, one of you was out.
Yeah.
Now, come on, we got to know what is going on with that.
Hey. Well, he was afraid of me anyway, but I remember we played a trick on Doug Collins. We were playing they were the Washington Bullets at the time, the Wizard now. And they brought Harvey into the locker room, and I hid in the bathroom or in the training room. Doug's come in, and Harvey's still in his street clothes, and they said, Horace isn't playing tonight. And Doug's face was like, what the fuck? What the? And Harvey had his head down, so Doug really couldn't see her. And Doug just like, oh hell. And then I come out the training room, and Doug was like, it was a huge joke. I just put it that way.
Hey, how often would you guys talk during the year?
My brother and I, we talked, God, 2 or 3 times a day. Just to talk shop, talk about life. I always talk about the ass kicking that I gave him whenever we played. Yeah. But check this out. We always wager who's going to win. And we won so much, I just stopped. I'm like, man, look, I just take you out to dinner. But once they beat us, instead of going to just a common restaurant, man, I had to take him to the most damn expensive steakhouse in Washington. I mean, we weren't making that much back then. I looked at the bill, it was like $1,600. I'm like, shh. So yeah, very good relationship, man. Very good relationship.
I want to talk about this real quick, if you can. Let's talk about this Last Dance.
Okay.
So if you can kind of surmise that and just talk about what did you make out of that?
When I first heard about it, actually, I was the last guy they interviewed because I wouldn't do it. I'm just like, I don't want to be a part. I mean, it's the Last Dance, and I wasn't there during that time. And they said, Horace, please, So I reluctantly said, yeah. So my thought process, it was just, talking about the last year with MJ and the Bulls.
Right.
And when I saw it, and I'm like, wow, what the heck? I mean, half of the stuff, to my knowledge, and to a lot of the other players who were on that team, half of it wasn't true. We were like, what? During that Last Dance, Billy C, I got so many calls from our former teammate was like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, man, I don't know. So, as you know, stuff with Sam Smith, the stuff with Sam Smith was not true whatsoever. But I knew I had to defend my character in that. And of course, I said what I said. And then a friend of mine called me. He was like, Horace, what do you think it was? That Last Dance was from Michael's perspective. That was his autobiography. Of course, he's going to make himself look good. And I started to think about it, Billy C. I'm like, that's right. Because if I had one, I want to look good.
Right.
So, and it kind of eased up the tension that I had for him in terms of the deceit that I found in that particular episode.
Yes, I would just say it was very interesting because it did provide us some entertainment for a month, but I definitely agree with you. Let me ask you just a couple more things. One is, what do you think about the current NBA, just as far as the style, the physicality, the comparison to how we played? What do you think? What do you make out of this right now?
Well, let's start with the style, and I think that the league and the sponsors and the partners, and the fans to a certain degree, want to see more tight tempo, which they got. They got great shooters, and Steph and James Harden and so forth and so forth. But I think by doing that, they took away a lot of the physicalness of the NBA, which a lot of fans want to see. I mean, you can't even touch someone these days, or if a guard passes the ball, he comes down the middle. We used to knock him on his ass. Today, you can't even.
Oh, that's a flagrant too. You're out of the game.
Yeah, that's a flagrant too. Yeah, you get kicked out. But saying all of that, I wish the NBA would allow a little more physicalness in the NBA. I don't want to see anybody get hurt or in their career or anything of that nature. But overall, I still say it's great for NBA.
Yeah, great players, great talent.
Yeah.
It's just a little different game right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked the question, could the NBA players today last in our league back in the day? I would say only a handful could survive back in our Piston, New York Knicks days, Cleveland, Indiana, you name it. Yeah, the East.
Yeah, it was a tad bit more more physical. Hey, Horace, how's your family?
Everybody good. The kids are great, man. Growing. I'm getting used to this Zoom thing now. I never heard of Zoom until the pandemic.
That's because you're getting old now. You didn't think you were getting old when I got in the league. You were young. You were laughing at me. Now look at you.
I tell people that Billy C. I said me and Pip used to laugh at like you were like, just wait till you get old. Just wait. Man, the back and the knees. Oh my goodness. I would never laugh again. I'll put it that way.
Horace, thank you so much for being on. I have really loved this. I really admired you as a player. You always came to work every day. You always gave his best effort, your best mind, and I always had appreciation for you. So I want to thank you for being with us today.
I want to thank you, man, and believe me, people don't know this, but you were one of our best leaders on the championship teams in Chicago. I mean, when you spoke, it was like, okay, we understand. Believe me, a lot of people don't know it, but I truly appreciate your friendship, being a teammate of yours, and protecting my ass in that lane a lot.
Well, thank you very much. Horace, you're the best.
Thanks a lot, B.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right.